Kingdom people, they wanted to see you suffer, and now they're suffering. And so, Kingdom people, these people wanted you to suffer. That was their heart's desires. And they did everything they could do to cause suffering in your life. These people want to see you in pain. They wanted to see you have meltdowns and want to see you cry and just be sad and pitiful and unhappy with life. They really wanted you suffering. They wanted you in bad conditions, situations. You know, it's so, I almost don't even want to say this, but you know, there are people that be wanting, I don't even know how to, people be wanting you to be homeless. And it just kind of blow me, because I'm like, who thinks that on somebody? I don't know, it's weird to me. But they do that because that's to them a form of suffering. And I say to them because you can be homeless and not necessarily suffering. But of course, if you homeless, especially if you like live outside or don't really have anywhere to go, you know, you can, and I'm speaking in terms of people are homeless and they live there, live outside, don't have anywhere to go. Everyone doesn't, you know, have a place that they can go to, people that they know, even though they don't have their own home, because that can be somewhat considered homeless, or go to a shelter. I know about that. And you know, so the thing with these people, they want you to like be in a position where you don't have nowhere to go, like out in the street, homeless, suffering. And again, I was saying that people make do. People who even live out in the street, we know, we heard of it, we know, some of us know the stories, you know situations where people make do. And a lot of times people don't even consider themselves to be suffering. I mean, of course some do, and it is kind of a form. I mean, everyone, I would think, should have a place to live, but of course we know things happen. Anyhow, that's the way that they want you to suffer. They want to see you suffering like that. These people don't want you to have anything. They just want you down bad. And it's so sad. And you may wonder, well, what did you do to these people? For them to think like that, I can't even talk. And listen, I always think, not always, but from time to time, I have moments where when I hear these kind of things, when God mentions these kind of things, or if I hear somebody speak on it, some, you know, things of that sort, even people who have like done me not so nice, done me dirty, if you will, I don't think the harm on them. I don't want them to suffer and be thinking all this evil on them and just wanting to see them down bad. Now, why at points of time in my life my feelings may have been hurt, they may have caused me pain, whatever the case may be, I never like wanted them to like suffer like bad like that. Now, have I had moments and times where I wanted them to get what they had coming to them? Yeah, I did. But I wasn't like thinking up thoughts of suffering. Anyway, Kingdom people, I just went all on a tangent. They wanted you to suffer though. But they're the ones suffering because, you know, you reap what you sow. And that's what's happening to them. And some of these people, they may have seen you suffer at one point in time. They may have even caused your suffering at one point. And the thing with these kind of people, they want you to stay there. They don't want you to come out and overcome. And that really bothers them that you did and that you do. And here's the thing. They're in situations where they're suffering and they don't know how to overcome. Even if you get yourself, even if they get themselves physically out of the suffering, the internal suffering still be there. That's because you have to do the inner work to really heal, to free yourself. These people don't tend to do that. Prayerfully, they'll come to that. But they understand and they know that you're not suffering internally. Doesn't mean you don't go through things. Again, it doesn't mean you haven't suffered. Even scripture tells us after we suffered a while, he'll establish us, he'll strengthen us, he'll restore us, He'll confirm us. Scripture tells us that. So there's some suffering that when you're walking with Christ that you're going to do. Scripture also tells us that when you suffer with Christ, you reign with him. So when you walking with Christ, there's some suffering you're going to do. But you get a reward for that. And see, when you're suffering with Christ, you're really in good hands. Your suffering is worthwhile. Your suffering is producing something eternal and something productive and fruitful for you, because you're not suffering in vain. And so these people want you to suffer. They wanted you to suffer. They want you to suffer. And they've brought suffering upon themselves. And I was just really reflecting this morning about how a lot of times in households, especially within the Black community, I mean, I'm sure it's in other communities as well, but I can speak to this just from seeing it with my own eyes. How suffering in some dysfunctional and unhealthy households is a form of, it's presented as love, is a way of showing love, or this is what love is, suffering. And so oftentimes people who come from those kind of families or households, they often, get into dynamics and relationships that cause suffering, and they think that is love. And so unfortunately, we have people who just regurgitate the suffering. But the difference here is, in this case, it's not coming from love. The suffering they want you to do is not because they love you. Actually, they kind of do. But they want you to suffer because they hate you. Not because you did anything to them, because of the jealousy. And, these kind of people, we already know they don't love themselves. They hate themselves, and you reflect to them what they lack, what they're not, they don't have within themselves. But it goes right back to the healing. It's not that you probably didn't have some unhealthy dynamics and family situations, but you did the work. You did the inner work. You didn't let where you came from and what you experienced be your end all, be your be all. Am I saying it right? End all, be all, something like that. You didn't let it, just take over your whole life. You did what you needed to do so you could be a healthy, functioning, citizen within society. And so, anyhow, kingdom people, a lot of times these are also learned behaviors. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times people, they experience their parents and or caregivers, whatever the case may be, they saw them cause and inflict suffering on others. And not necessarily in the name of love, but in the name of causing them to suffer. And so they saw their supposed to be, I guess, role models, those adults that were in their lives, and they saw them do that. But also, they may have even used them to cause suffering to others. And the reason why I say this is because I've personally experienced where people use their children, or whoever, usually it's children, to kind of cause issues for me, like to be a nuisance to me. I'll say it that way. But ultimately what they're trying to do is cause suffering. Trying to, they even use them to try to draw you in too. I done seen it all. But I mention that to say that oftentimes I believe that when people are doing that, that's what has been done to them. Their parents probably use them as pawns too. And so I just mentioned that to say that a lot of times people try to make you suffer because that's what they're seeing. That's not why they do it, but it is a learned behavior. And they've seen their caretakers growing up, possibly, see them try to inflict pain and suffering on others. And so they just they just not reinventing, just recycling basically what they're experiencing, and they do the same thing. And they understand that behind that is the intent of causing harm and suffering. And so I think the reason why it's so intriguing to me is because, as I said before, I in my mind can't and don't want to think like wish suffering on people, wishing harm on them, and wishing them to be homeless or whatever, not have anything. I can't. And so this morning, as I said, when I was reflecting on that, that's what all occurred to me. Well, I had to remember, I just kind of reflected upon that, how even though my mind don't work like that, a lot of times people's minds work like that because their minds were taught to work like that, or that was modeled in front of them, or that was modeled with them even. And so, and of course that's not always the case. Some people just come up with that on their own, but we know what spirit is really behind that. But the thing is, this kingdom people, the suffering they wanted for you, or wanted you to stay in, because again, we go through things. It's just kind of like how people, you go through whatever you go through, and people think that's just going to be it for you for life. I'm like, I just don't get that thinking, because people go through things. Just because you're going through something don't mean you're going to stay there. People overcome things all the time. It's just part of the ebb and flow of life. But what I've come to learn is the reason why they think like that is because that's what they want for you. They don't want you to come out. They want you to stay stuck right there in suffering because they don't want to see you do well. So these people, they wanted to see you suffer. They don't want you to have nothing. They want you to be nothing, just suffering. Just imagine that. Just somebody just wanted you to just be in a place where you come on. But the kicker is that's what's happening with them. And even if they have things, they may not be suffering physically per se. They're suffering internally. They're in pain. They're aching inside. They're suffering internally. And that usually is the result of when you're wanting others to suffer. And these kind of people tend to inflict suffering on themselves, because think about it, kingdom people, they out here trying to inflict harm and suffering on other people. They wishing that for other people. So, for you to even come up with that kind of thinking, wanting that for somebody, that's something that's in you that has to come from within for you to even try to project it onto someone else. You can't even project anything unless it's within you. So that means suffering is already happening within them. No one wants another to suffer unless they are already suffering. Again, inner suffering. A person can have all the money in the world. Well, they ain't got all the money in the world, but a person can have millions and billions of dollars. But if they are wanting someone to suffer, they are suffering internally. You can't want that for someone else if you don't have that going on already. It just doesn't work like that. That's not how it goes. It's just like we heal kingdom people. We wish people well. We want the best for people. That's what's going on in us. We wish ourselves well. We heal. So yes, because we heal and we do the inner work, that's what we want for others. We want them to heal, to do the inner work. Just like we know Christ, we walk with Christ. We want others to know Christ and walk with Christ. We want the very best for them. We want them to have the very best that God has for them, just like we want the very best that God has for us. We want those same things for others. So again, when someone is wishing harm and suffering on someone, they are already suffering inside. That's why they wishing it on you, because they don't want to see you not in suffering when they're suffering. And it's the thing, they're not willing to do what's necessary to come out of that suffering. But you are, and you were, and that's why you came out of it. Not only that, but you suffer for Christ. But when you suffer for Christ, sometimes it don't look like suffering. Sometimes it don't look like suffering, but sometimes it do, and they mistake it and think that you're suffering because you did something wrong. And sometimes we do go through that too, but we learn. We learn from what we go through. That's part of life. We supposed to learn in this thing called life. We supposed to get better and improve, make better decisions. Kingdom people, listen. They want you to suffer. They wanted you to suffer. And now they suffering. They are suffering right now.